Welcome back to Part T with Becky and Kenzie. Today is an exciting day for us because it is our 1 year anniversary of starting this video series. Yay, us. So we wanted to do a topic about a year of growth for both of us and what we have grown from personally, business-wise, and just overall this past year since starting these videos. So Becky is going to start and we're going to go back and forth.
Yes, keeping the theme of us being us, we're gonna sort of be in order and sort of be all over the place. My first growth thing, I guess you want to say, is I created stronger boundaries this year without feeling guilty. I know that we always talk about boundaries, and that I think I still love that video. Like anything with boundaries, I'm just like, nope, not guilty. I don't care. Creating boundaries.
That's like, I feel like the most important thing to learn in a healing journey too. My first thing was just growth in my healing journey from leaving a toxic relationship and also a healing from a trauma that resurfaced from childhood that has been suppressed for 10 years, I think it was. So that healing journey has been very new to me, but this past year has been a lot of growth in that journey. So just whether it was on my own growth, or including people and actually asking for support, that was a big thing for me because I tend to just try to deal with everything on my own. So actually reaching out and making sure I have a support system and to help me through all of that was really big step for me in that journey.
Yeah, that's huge. Asking for help, it sounds like when you say it out loud, it's like, but that sounds like so simple.
Yeah,
But
but
it's a
it's hard.
big deal. It's a
Yeah,
big deal. So that's great that you got to that place,
yeah.
able to do that. My next one is I let go of the dead things and people from my life. So we're coming into fall, or we're in fall, even though I'm still in summer mode. Um,
I
and
know.
that's kind of like the theme of fall. The leaves, let the dead leaves fall. You let the dead things go in fall.
Yeah, that's a great one, especially like you said during this season. Like nature reminds us all the time of how to be in our own lives. So to let that stuff go and know that new growth is going to come and not be afraid to let those dead things go is really important. That's like kind of similar to my next thing, is just like trying to come more into who I really am and not caring what other people think as much. So like pushing myself outside my comfort zone, being in skits with movers and doing things that I normally wouldn't do. Like I'm not an actor, but yet I'm in all these skits doing stuff and putting myself out there and to be vulnerable for everyone else to judge me, but yet I don't feel that judgment. So feeling strong enough to be able to put myself out there has felt really powerful, kind of for my personal power, and just like not really caring what people think about me or what I'm doing has been a big step for me this year as well.
I like watching those, the few that I've seen. I think you did one with Jose. And I was like, oh, I was like, look at her go. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
that's
it's
so
fun.
cool. Like it looked like a movie, and I was like, that's so
Right.
cool. So my next one, I grew and will continue to grow through motherhood and all the challenges. This is not for the faint of heart. Yeah, there's just, it's so complex.
That could be
So
its
complex.
own video in itself too.
Yeah, split into like so many different categories, but she's happy today, so that's good.
Good.
Her
We love
giggle.
seeing Violet in our videos too.
I know. I know, and even her, she's grown from the first video. She was like in
Baby.
she was
Aw.
10 months old. She was in my arms, and I'm just like, oh, and now she's like a person.
I know. You're starting to talk crazy.
I know.
That's so cool to have these videos to look back on too to
I
see.
know.
So my next one is more, I guess, on the health and spiritual side of things in my personal growth, I have definitely become more regular with my physical healing, I guess, and spiritual healing in terms of like yoga and finding like a tribe that believes in the same things I believe in like a holistic community. So finding, a holistic chiropractor who works with energy healing, finding an acupuncturist who does more of the spiritual healing rather than just physical stuff, and also becoming more plant-based has been a health goal of mine, that I just feel better, I'm more energized, and I think spiritually too, it has opened me up to more things. It's definitely been hard, the plant-based part. I'm not strictly sticking to it, but
Mhm.
I still think it's fair to yourself to not label yourself as one thing because it's too restrictive. So I give myself the freedom to still have whatever I want, but I just know what feels good for my body. But definitely the yoga, the acupuncture, like all of finding the right people that believe what I believe in that can also help me get to my physical and spiritual goals has been a big step for me this year.
I guess that also, it's funny how I didn't know what you wrote, but we're kind of like in the same order.
Yeah, it's funny.
So for me, I reclaimed my health and I'm moving my body more. Postpartum, I feel like my pregnancy like was a healthy pregnancy. I enjoyed being pregnant, even with like the aches and pains and all the little things. But afterwards, like I'm like, did I get hit by a truck? Like what, like it's taken so long. Like these people that are like, oh, 2 days or 5 days, and it's like they look like that. And I'm like, no, no, stop that. Like,
It's unrealistic. Yeah.
yeah. So I definitely think that even just being inactive was really not good. I think emotionally, physically, just like to get my body moving so that I don't feel like those kinds of aches and pains, which I had never felt before. And it's like, whoo, because when you're pregnant, it's like you're carrying a person, like, and it's hard to just do normal things.
Yeah.
And then postpartum, you're still carrying a person, like
Yeah. Now,
um,
I,
yeah. And so it's like trying to figure out, love physical therapy. I will be going next week, which I cannot wait for whatever I did to my shoulder.
yeah.
Um, so I'm kind of like, but I can't wait for that. I've been enjoying physical therapy, and even I was able to get to acupuncture a little bit, and then my acupressure mat, and
Yeah.
going for lots of walks, being in nature. I'd like some more time to work, I guess, spiritually. Not that I've been disconnected, but I haven't been able to do like a lot of the little things that I do because I'll either forget because I'm taking care of Violet, or I'm laying in bed and it's like, oh,
You're drained.
okay,
Yeah.
or what phase is the moon in? Like, and I think now we are in a bunch of different, well, Mercury is definitely in retrograde, and there's
Mhm.
a whole bunch of other
There's a lot of things
retrograde.
happening on the planet.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
but because I'm a Gemini, Mercury, like, so from doing like these spiritual rituals and practices,
Yeah.
like Mercury and I are like this. Like, I can get a little squirrely with technology, but
Yeah.
outside of technology, like, I almost feel like I can feed off of Mercury.
Wait, isn't your sign ruled by Mercury
I
too?
think so. Yeah. Yeah. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. So
Um,
I'm just like, we're besties.
yeah, that's I know we always talk about like Mercury retrograde as a bad thing, but like there are good things that can come out of it. People just focus on the poor communication and the
Yeah.
technology issues, but there's so much more to it that
Yeah.
is positive. So if we could take that from it, that's a good thing. I think mine kind of goes with that as well. My next one, I feel like this is so funny. We're always in sync.
I know.
So I had just more me time and prioritizing my self-care, whether that means getting out in nature more, going for more walks, watching the sunset by myself, going to the beach by myself and just being with myself, journaling, just whatever makes me feel good when I need it, and listening to that, like allowing myself to pause in the middle of the day and do something for myself because I know whatever work I was working on will still be there when I get back. Like actually prioritizing that self-care has been really huge for me. And I fell away from it a little bit in the last month or so, but that's something that I've grown from tremendously from last year. So I'm going to get back into that groove again of just prioritizing the me time and my alone time to know that question that we ask ourselves, who am I? Like, you won't know if you don't spend time with yourself. So that's something I've been enjoying a lot lately too.
Yeah, I laugh at the me time because now we're in the phase where everyone, moms joke about like, oh, I can't even go to the bathroom with
Yeah,
like by myself. And I'm
right.
like, oh, we're in that phase now. But at least she has her little potty because
Yeah.
we peed on the potty twice.
More growth.
Yeah. And so she'll come in there and try to sit on her potty. She can sit on it, but trying to hold her
Mhm.
like while I'm like on the toilet. It's just like the classic like mom meme or mom
Yeah,
joke about like no privacy.
right.
Um so my next, which has nothing to do with my next growth, has to do with the business side. So business wise, I'm growing internally with my business, slow and steady. And I have this where it's like slow and steady wins the race. When I'm in a growth phase in my business, I get very, very quiet. I'm very quiet on social media. I don't share until it's done because in the skincare and beauty industry, people like to copy and take from each other. So I have to kind of work with that and just be silent. I guess I try to like make posts, or when I'm in that like growth, I have to focus on that. And I'm like, all right, let me just pop in and be like, hey, thanks for being here. Um, but that's what's going on with that. I have a couple businessy things in like my next little.
So I'm heading back to the personal side of things. I have about two or three more things, and then I'm also going to talk about the business growth side of things. But the last few things, which all kind of go together, was just that I've been starting to say how I feel more to other people rather than holding everything in. Letting people know when they've hurt me, letting people know, hey, I was triggered by this, or just being more vocal about what's going on in my head because people can't read your mind. So if you want the support, you have to let them know what's going on. So being more vocal, whether it's with my family or with a partner or just even friends and business wise too, saying like, hey, I'm not okay with the way that we're working on this or something like that has been something that I am happy that I grew from this year. And then along with that, also speaking up and advocating for things that I believe in and speaking about important topics, that I think are important that I don't think are getting enough light or and not to get like political or anything like that, just like any topic that I feel I'm passionate about and that is important in the world, I have been advocating more for. So I know a big thing for me is advocating for mental health always. So like that's been a big thing I've been speaking up a lot more about, again, within family, on social media, and just not being afraid of that backlash or any of that. So those two kind of go together. And then my last personal growth is actually really new. I spiritually am starting to try to learn how to tap into my intuition more. And I'm doing that through learning tarot cards. So I pick one a day and I look at the card. I don't look at the meaning, I just look at it and I write down and journal what I think the card means. And that's me like listening to my intuition of like, okay, what does this card mean? And the way I pick the card is I just keep shuffling until I feel like one is calling me. And so that's how I've been trying to learn the tarot cards. And then I'll go back and look at the meaning and see if it matches up and take what I want from it to make my readings, more personal, like making them, not the same as everybody else's, making it my version of a reading. So I only am up to like 5 cards or so. So I just started this, but that's been something that's been exciting and new. And actually, I met another medium who was a Sagittarius, which we didn't find out till afterwards, but we just started talking and she's like, you have something. And I was like, I always felt like I had like a good ability for, sensing things and reading signs and, receiving messages, but never really tapped into it because of fear. So her telling me, go for it kind of gave me that little push to be like, okay, let's break this fear down and just start and see what happens. So that's been also a cool personal growth thing for me.
I
So
like that. I know like trauma can block. It can either block or
bring it up.
accelerate. Yeah. So it's like finding that balance in between. But that's really cool. We should, now that I'm like, ooh, we should do like a cards because I
Yeah.
have oracle cards, but I like the same thing. Like I do
Yeah.
them for myself and I kind of
Right.
I have the little booklet or
Mhm.
cards that just jump out,
Yeah.
usually like in the right kind of way. So that'd be
Mhm.
cool. We could like do something with our cards. So the next I have a couple businessy things that kind of go together as well. So with staying quiet, I am creating new products. I'm taking more classes. Um, and how I mentioned that I'm being silent on social media to focus on my own growth instead of the fake narratives of others' social media. So I
Mhm.
kind of had to take a break from social media because the fluffiness was getting like too much. And then I just wrote here, which I was like, oh, I'm becoming a professional ghoster, where we talk about ghosting. I think that was one of our very first videos because it was October.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I've become from going to an OG ghoster to now being a professional ghoster, where it's like, where am I putting my energy in my business? Who am I surrounding myself with in my business? There's a certain image that I'd like to portray with being a business owner. And if other businesses or other people don't fit in that, block,
Yeah.
delete, unfollow, on everything, like, because I don't want to be, I see some things online, especially from other business owners, and I don't want to be associated with their whatever their negative
Right.
um, stuff
Or
is.
yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think I do this on my business page, or even I try not to be super negative online, even though I can be in real life, I can
Yeah.
be super negative. Um, but I try not to do that online. I
Mhm.
think that's where like therapy helps because it's
Yeah.
like I'm gonna pay someone so that I can complain.
Exactly.
You know? And then you feel better.
I feel like that helps a lot because, like, if you don't have that method of getting out all the negative thoughts and you're not writing and you're not doing things to get that out, you're just splurging it out into the universe on social media and making that a more negative place, or doing it to other people that don't deserve to hear those negative things. And it's like there's a place for that. It's called therapy.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
awesome. So I also have some business growth as well. So I'll just kind of go through all of those quickly. I obviously have my cookie business, DK Desserts, with my mom that we started in 2018. So now it's been a couple years that we've been doing it, but this past year has been the most growth that we've seen. Sales wise, just exposure wise on social media. And one of the things that we were able to do was get into our first retail store. So we wholesaled our product to our first retailer, and that has been amazing. They replenish every week, and it's been really steady for us. So that's definitely something I want to do more of, is finding more places that want to do that. We have reached our overall goal to start looking for a food truck, our overall profit
Yeah.
goal. So we
Come
are
visit
currently,
me.
yes, we're finally at a place where we can start looking and investing in other things for the business that will hopefully create more growth. So that is hopefully by next year, we'll see what happens with the food truck. But that's something we're going to start looking for now that we've hit our goal. Um, we have also been testing some new products. Again, with the food truck formation coming, we want to offer different things, not just cookies. So new products are on the way as well. And we also have been doing a lot more festivals and farmers markets, especially now that the world's opened back up. This year, more than any other year, we've done almost at least every other weekend we've done a booth somewhere or helped, at a fundraiser somewhere. We've contributed to a couple fundraisers as well. We've done matching things where people will buy a box of cookies and we'll match that donation to a cause or a fundraiser. So that has been it feels good to just do that because I get to do what I love and also give back to something that is really meaningful to me. And then the most recent thing that was really exciting is that we hit our highest sales in one day at Statfest, which was the festival that my brother put on and my cousin. It stands for Summertime All the Time. So it was it was in September. So it was like the last big summer festival that we were doing. And we hit the most amount of sales we ever have in one day, which was really, really exciting for us. It was cool to see that number just keep going up throughout the day and finally feels like we are accomplishing something, because like you said, that slow and steady can sometimes be discouraging because you're you want to see the growth, but it will happen is basically what I'm saying. It's it takes time, but eventually you'll see that number go up, whether it's followers or sales or whatever it is. And that's been really exciting for DK Desserts. And that's all my business growth this year.
I didn't know that stood for summertime all the time.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because that's how I feel. I'm summertime. Even though I'm I hate the bugs, I hate the heat, but it's
the idea of the sun and
now I know now it's getting darker earlier, and I'm no.
Yep.
So I have here, which I kind of spoke on a little bit, business wise, but I've been evaluating everyone in my life and legit social distancing myself from the toxic ones. That's been a pandemic blessing. I know with the pandemic, there's a lot of stress, anxiety, a lot of negative emotions, feelings with this pandemic. But one of the pandemic blessings, I guess you can call it, is because we had to isolate. It's oh, well, I'm just going to use the pandemic as an excuse to just, no, pandemic, I'm not going, or no, can't see you, goodbye. And I've even been social media wise removing negative groups, pages, people, posts from my social media, which is, it's still, I guess that for a while it might still be a work in progress, just because with algorithms, I don't always see, sometimes I follow a bunch of things or people from the past, or things where I was oh, I like this in the moment. And then I have seen kind of a shift and a change of certain influencers, I guess you can say, where they have these huge followings and they're posting inaccurate things, especially when it comes to health and a pandemic. And I'm you're not a doctor, scientist, this is your opinion, and you are putting your opinion out as fact, which can be super dangerous when it comes to health. So I've been removing a lot of that stuff and trying to curate what I see on social media to be more positive, more uplifting. And if that means I only see 2 people's things, then I'm okay with that. So that's a whole detox in itself.
Yeah, that was the big thing that I had done when I first started my whole healing self-love journey. Even back in college, I started just following more positive pages and following, quotes that that make me feel good rather than looking at people that I'm comparing myself to or following fitness models that I'm never gonna look like because just biologically no one in my family looks like that. Like,
Or
so
their
it's
job is to work out
yeah,
24/7, so
or
they
they
have
have a
that space.
trainer. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like doing that really played a big part in my mental health, and I still try to, like you said, curate and make sure I'm very selective in who not only who follows me, but who I follow as well. And I have so many different pages with all the different businesses and things I'm involved in. So each one kind of has their own curation of things. Like my DK account is mostly just food stuff. So I don't have to look at, any other things when I'm on that page. My personal page is mostly puppies and like positive quotes because that's what I like to look at. That's what makes me happy. So that definitely has been a big help in my mental health as well.
So the next two things I have here is that I've lost some weight physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, but I've been working on exercising more, and I have again that slow and steady to keep that off. And with that, losing all of that, I am starting to really become mindful of where I'm putting my energy. Like I said, with that removing negative toxic and all that, I think being more selective and and Violet, I guess you agree?
So Violet is very excited to talk about her growth as well. We always love having her on here. It's so cool to see her grow and be more talkative and she's just so cute. How could you not want to see a baby? Um, so my next two things are about more of my, I guess, passion project is my mental health blog, Kenzie Men's with the Z. And I started that in July. So about halfway through of doing these videos, I started my mental health blog page. And it was really just for myself to express things that were, hard for me to overcome that I felt like other people would also resonate with. So my motto for that is do it scared. So not to say that you should do things out that make you uncomfortable, but just do things to push you outside your comfort zone a little bit so that way you can expand yourself mentally, spiritually, emotionally. So doing it scared and breaking down that fear and going for it is kind of what I did with the blog. So that's now my little motto for the blog. And with that, I also started doing in March of this past year, I started doing more live videos. So in the spirit of doing it scared, I've never done a live video on Instagram before. So I started just randomly picked a day where I said, okay, I'm going to go live and see what happens and talk about mental health as a check-in and see how people respond. And it ended up being really well received, and a lot of people liked the videos. They're shorter form videos of topics like what we do on here, but just simple to digest, quick, and to the point about things that I struggled with that week or that other people brought to me. And so those lives have been going really well, and that's something I would like to continue doing and hopefully bring offline and do talks in person. That's sort of one of my goals with the blogs. I was already asked to be on a broadcast for somebody else's live event that supported the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So I did a mental health talk for them, which was really affirming for me because it's like, oh, I actually am speaking about things that matter and that are important and that other people want me to talk about. So that was really cool to be asked to be on that. I've also been asked to be on a couple podcasts to talk about my mental health blog as well and to talk about Party with Becky and Kenzie. So it's been bringing a lot of opportunity for me to be able to share these topics with more people than just our platform. So those two have been big growth spots for me on my little passion projects, which is Party with Becky and Kenzie Menz.
I love that. I did watch that that talk that you gave.
Yeah,
It was really good. And I
thank you.
I try to catch your lives.
It's hard. Everyone
Yeah.
such a weird time, and I'm like, well, that's my me time. That's
Yeah,
do it.
you do. You're doing. You can do it. But we do watch after, and usually Violet's like yelling or waving, or she recognizes you. So it's nice to watch them with her and her reactions and stuff.
Yeah. Aw.
So I have a couple more, but I'll break them down. So I know you had mentioned this earlier, and I have this like later in my notes, how I'm speaking up a lot more, even if I sound like a broken record to people who don't listen, which can be super frustrating, but at the same time, it's frustrating, but it's like, but I'm speaking up. I'm just gonna keep sounding like a broken record until they get it. And I've found that I'm happier alone than with anyone who drains my energy or makes me feel less than, tries to gaslight me, or only wants to take my knowledge for free, or just wants to complain. Now, when I say complain, there's a difference between complaining and venting. So I know, like in my mom group chat, we do a lot of venting in there, about our day, if we're frustrated with something, so that, the other moms, like my two best friends, like they've been moms longer than me. So stuff that I'm going through now, they've already been through.
Right.
So it's nice to have that space.
I was gonna say
To feel heard and understood. I guess the difference is someone who's complaining about the same thing over and over and over. And, at first you try to give them advice and they're like, yeah. And then they're not doing what you're suggesting that would be beneficial or help them. They just kind of want to be stuck in that.
Yeah, complaining is more like complaining about things that you have control over changing.
Yeah.
Venting is like, I can't change the fact that my 2-year-old had a tantrum today, but I can talk about it. Like, I need to just get it out and release. Like, so that's like like if you can do something about what you're complaining about, it's not worth complaining about. Just change it,
Yeah.
So I guess my last two things really, and I'm sure I'll jump in and something as you talk about your last two things. Cool. So along with my blog page, I've been trying to work on ways to make it more engaging and again bring it offline and bring it more into homes and to people that need it rather than just my followers, because I feel like it's really important stuff that we talk about on here as well as on the blog page. So I am working on developing some workshops as well as, like I said, like talks, bringing talks to maybe schools, or haven't really figured it out yet, but I want to work on developing some sort of method to bring to other places to be able to share with people that makes it simple to understand basic mental health. Because I feel like that's not something that you learn in school, unfortunately, and it should be something that is just as important as going to gym class. They care about your physical health, but they don't really focus on your mental health. So I want to do some sort of method. I'm working on a couple different things. It's still in development, but if anyone has any suggestions on what they want to see to make that more engaging, or if you wish you had something that growing up in school that you didn't have that would have been helpful, let me know, because I would love to develop that for other people. And the reason I came up with that was just because I have a lot of younger cousins and I'm watching the stress that gets put on them through how they grew up with social media. I didn't grow up on technology. I grew up outside, playing outside. Yeah, it was introduced, still early on. I was still like in middle school when technology was introduced, but I had time. They are growing up on a phone from when they're 2 years old. So the anxiety that brings on and all of these extra pressures that brings on, along with how schools have been changing their curriculums, just everything has really been more affecting their mental health than I feel like our generation has been affected by just being in school and being surrounded by technology. So that's where this idea came about, was to give back to really my younger cousins and be like, hey, you don't have to stress about these things. Like, I know this is your entire world right now, is getting a certain amount of likes on this picture, but it's really not the end of the world if 100 people don't like your picture. So because people are literally getting so distraught, their mental, like kids' mental health has declined so much in the younger generations because of so many different factors. And I just want to try to offer a different angle to life, that it's not all about the stuff that they're focusing on. So developing some sort of workshop or method is in the works. And then my last thing is, I am not fully ready to talk about the full extent of this yet. It's still something I'm working on in my healing journey, but with the resurfacing of the trauma that I spoke about from that I experienced 10 years ago was an interesting journey in itself. So finding a support for that has been kind of difficult because it's not something you want to talk about. And I know I'm being very vague because I'm not giving like a topic of what it was about, but I want to start some sort of support group where there's no shame, there's no pressure, there's no like, oh, if I follow this page on social media, everyone's going to know, what happened to me or something like that. So starting some sort of group where people don't feel, again, that barrier to joining, to be able to express, things that have happened with similar trauma. So again, that was very vague because I'm not fully ready to talk about it yet, but that is something that will slowly be in the works as well. But I feel like I need to put it out into the universe and make that happen. So that was my last step of growth for this year's overview. I know you have a couple more as well, Becky.
Yes. And I know that you've mentioned that before, and I just want to acknowledge that, like, I never felt the need to ask you, like, oh, well, what was your trauma? Like, because there's traumas, like, I know I've had traumas as well, and we don't necessarily go into detail,
Right.
because sometimes it's not about the details, it's about how you heal from it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just want to acknowledge that
Thank
while trying to pay attention while Violet is drinking water out of my mug and trying to chew on the cup. So the last, which is funny, the last 4 that I have here, I have that I'm focusing on teaching Violet to use her intuition and to continue being independent and curious. As you can see,
She has shown
how to get a water bath. Yeah. Super independent right now. And then the other thing, which I'm not sure if we'll do a video on this. Originally I thought it was an idea, but like how you said, like certain kind of traumas and stuff, like sometimes we don't want to speak life to them. So I visited what I like to call the family wound, and I let go of an entire side of relatives because their trauma is not my burden to bear. Especially, that's why I call it the family wound, like those generational things that maybe you're told growing up, or it's almost like they try to make it become part of you when it's a part of them,
right?
Because they may not know how to heal their own stuff.
I love that quote sort of that you said, like their trauma and their stuff was not mine to carry. It's not my burden there. Like,
yeah, and that's something that I realized, like this was not an overnight like thing. It was just going through the motions and going through the what are you doing? Are you sticking your hands in the water?
There's curiosity.
I said I wanted her to be curious, so we're getting a bath. And the last 2 that I have here is that, this year I try to really dig deep and not let the pandemic take over my life. You know, last year it was like new and scary and all the unknown. And I really worked on trying to do as many things as we could with the way the world is and what we felt safe doing, like lots of outdoor experiences, instead of just being in the house for an entire year again. I don't think I'd be able to do another year at home because it was too much inside time. So the last one is I really worked on practicing what I've been preaching in this entire year's worth of videos.
I like
You know, I can talk and talk and talk and give advice and put things on paper, but if I can at least apply or put them into action, you know, that's also helpful too.
Mm-hmm. I think what's helpful too is that, you know, we're human, so we're not going to do all of the things we give advice on 100% of the time. But what's cool about the videos is we can always go back to them and remind ourselves, hey, you were in a place where you knew, you know, how to get over this certain topic or how to set boundaries. At one point you were able to do it. So to be able to watch back and look at what we've, you know, accomplished in these videos and to, like you said, continue applying them is like the main point of the video. It's not to just listen and be like, oh, okay, that was a nice video. It's to actually live this and like you said, practice what you preach. And it definitely helps. I do that all the time. I'll go back to a video and I'll rewatch it because I'm just like, what did we talk about? I need help in this area right now. Like I'm totally like not, you know, doing what I said for other people to do. So how can I, you know, apply this better? And I'll look back at our videos to be able to do that. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah, it's something I do the same thing. I'll go back and watch, like, what was I saying? Or what was this topic? Like, what did we talk about? And then I'm like, oh, yeah, I needed to hear that or I needed to watch that.
Yeah.
And then I have, I guess, the last couple things I have here is for everyone watching. This time of year, the fall, we always talk about spring cleaning. And I always love to do that as well as fall cleaning, decluttering, letting go of the dead things. I'm going to repeat that again. I found that I've gone through some old clothes that were too old to donate. So I had like my donate clothes pile, and then I have my throw out because they're like literally falling apart clothes. You know, declutter your space. Winter's coming. You're going to be inside more. So make it nice and cozy instead of stuff, you know. And, you know, we definitely would love to hear, how did you grow this year? I know the year is technically not over, but for Parsi, our year, you know, we're celebrating that 1 year of growth. And I definitely enjoy doing these videos with you. I don't want to cry and get all like sappy, but I really have enjoyed. And thank you for holding the space for me to be my most vulnerable with all of my emotions and all these hard topics that we've talked about. I don't think I'd be able to talk about these with anybody else doing these videos, because I think we definitely are in sync. We have like you're the yin to my yang, or like you know, and you know, just
for holding space is so funny, because I feel like the same thing is a healing journey in itself, is just thinking of these topics and writing about them, and then going through the emotions of writing them, going through the emotions of filming them, and then putting out the video. It's like a whole roller coaster of different emotions. So to go through that with you has been really, really awesome, and so grateful for our friendship. Let's continue with another year of awesome videos.
I guess with this next year coming up, we would definitely love to hear from you guys. on what topics. I know we always ask what topics do you want to hear, but especially for this, next year coming up, or even this next season. Winter is coming, the darker days are coming. So, which Violet does not like. She loves being outside just as much. So if there's something that you're struggling with during winter, especially, feel free to reach out to us.
Yeah, and I also would like to know too, like, what did you guys learn, if anything, from our videos this past year? Like, is there something that you didn't think of before that when you saw the video, you're like, wow, now I'm gonna think about that and reflect on that and work on this. I didn't even know I needed to work on this until I saw you talk about it. So that I feel like would be interesting to hear about, like, what have you learned from our videos? Because again, we can talk all day long about how it's helped us, but we want to do these for you guys too. So let us know what you want to hear about, what has helped you in the past, and what you want to see for future videos. And thank you, as always, for tuning in to another year of positive, also crying and anger and all the emotions in our videos.
And all the yelling from Violet. I don't have my teacup because she took a bath with it. So I'll hold up an oil.
Bye, guys.
Bye.